Originally, I planned to put 3 questions to our panelists, but I would do just one, and then would like also the audience, like in the previous session, to put also 1 or 2 questions. And the one question I would like to ask from you, and maybe all 3 of you can answer very shortly, what are the, if there are, regulatory obstacles that might hamper implementation of these technologies and be part of the integrated roadmap. So the regulatory obstacles, because today we haven't spoken too much about regulation, but the triangle, research, investment, and regulation, these must work together. So just very shortly, 1 or 2 examples by each of you.
Now it seems to operate. So regulatory issues, if I start with bioenergy, of course, fair sustainability criteria for biomass are very important. There are so many types of biomass. It's imported, it's local, it's biomass from Nordic forests where the growing cycle is 60 or 70 years with very many thinnings and then final felling. And then there are perennial crops, everything between those. And there are, of course, also biomass included in waste. So that's very important topic for the future.
So I think that the big takeaway has to be that if you want, in the long run, to have choices to make to meet those twin goals,
yes,
you need policy parity,
yes,
around the options which are likely to have value. And arguably, that is not the case today.
So it's not the case yet. This is what you feel.
In our narrower sense, we have the geological directive on the storage, yes, of CO2,
yes,
which has been broadened into the matter of the policy review. And it's critically important that we learn the lessons of the last few years, why we have been a bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
We know we need to sort the ETS, but we know we need other policy pieces to be brought in. That dialogue is available to us.
Mm-hmm.
It should be placed firmly in the context of the Energy Union plans for execution.
Thank you. Very important for us.
Well, talking about regulation coming from Spain, and I think what happened in 2012 in Spain was revoke the law to support the renewable technologies. It's difficult. We need a stable regulation, of course. That's what we need. We need a stable regulation. We need a plan that fit the regulation with the expectation in the technology, with the research, and also with fulfill the objectives of the politicians. So, of course, it is very important.
Mm-hmm. So stable, calculable, foreseeable policies is certainly policy stability. I think that's the term frequently used. What everybody needs and all technologies need, and I fully agree with you. Now, I would like to ask the audience if I already see one colleague, and please put your question, short and to the point, but you need the mic, yes.
A question to the British gentleman from Zero Emission Platform. You spoke about a CO2 storage in a pan-European network. We have a feeling it is not easy. Can you tell us why and what you can do to make it a feasibility, a true thing?
So I agree with you that it's not easy. In a sense, we wouldn't need to meet here to do it if it were. If it were a simple matter of saying, I would like to have this and I would make a few signals that I wanted it to be true, then it would occur. But the core issues are this. The competencies that are required to run the transport system and operate the stores are distinct. And they're particularly distinct from the skills required for capture. We often call this the counterparty risk. In early demos, we asked somebody, a big player, to assume all the counterparty risks to deliver. That's okay. Later, we need to see that these are separate activities. We need to separate policy for them. In essence, we need an oversized network in the early stages in order to encourage emitters to capture, to put it into storage. We need characterization. The folks who will do this may have other things they could do with their time. They need to be encouraged. My view is we need a project of common interest. We need 4 or 5 member states with an interest to articulate the benefits of it. We need to see it in the context of President Juncker's infrastructure package and to think about how we can gather the skills to deliver that. A more detailed conversation is available in a report we've just written on exactly this piece. I'll happily give you the inevitably it's a web link, isn't it, for it? But it talks about the economics, the socialization, and the industrialization of large-scale infrastructure and how you set about the task.
Thank you very much. One more question before lunch. Yes?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, really interesting, because you are opening our eyes for the new technologies. But I would like to do a question that obviously is a common question for all of you. Is just related, how long are the technologies that you are talking about from the competitiveness, and what is the way that, the quick way to solve these issues, to overcome the problem?
Well.
So, concerning bioenergy, there are a lot of different technologies, and there can be made a roadmap how to commercialize those. There are some technologies which are ready to demonstrate it in, let's say, in medium scale and then in a large scale. But of course, there are also some technologies which need still long way to be commercialized. So it can be made a roadmap for gradual development, and there are already several technologies which are already ready for demonstration phase, but they include risks, and it's the reason why those investments have not been carried out so far. Mm-hmm.
So I believe we see 3 phases. The next 5 years is completing the point-to-point demonstration projects like Boundary Dam, Peterhead, White Rose Road, etc. There will probably be 20 or 30 of those globally by 2020, something of that size. Then there's a second phase, which is actually about commercial scale deployment, but we recognize on pre-commercial terms. So we already believe it can become commercial through industrial learning and implementation, but we need to take the time to do that. That takes place in the 2020s, and it's fully commercially available for deployment from 2030 onwards, give or take a bit. We should also, though, reflect on so-called current competitiveness. And first of all, it's clear that it's executable now. It's happened in Canada. It's going to happen in the United States next year. The second thing is it's already cost competitive with, for example, offshore wind. But it is not cost competitive with onshore wind or with onshore solar, because those have been benefiting from their learning curve progress for a longer period of time. One of our key issues is the large-scale costs of each project, and we need to think about how we deal with that. But I think that the point that we want to make is, again, it's easy enough to describe a roadmap with clear milestones in it. You get to decide at each milestone which delivers the desired outcome, which is in 2030, you could leave it to the market to decide which decarbonisation routes it chooses to take.
Thank you. This is a very interesting question. there is two ways to answer, like with including the externalities or without including the externalities. I would say without the externalities. I will leave apart the externalities. We aim to be competitive between 2020 and 2025, but today, we are in a fast run to get the grid parity. You can see the pictures, and taking into account that we have only 4 gigawatt installed compared to 150 gigawatt for PV or 300 megawatt for wind, we still have a long run. And the experience curve, the shape is still it's have a great shape. But, for example, today I can tell that this plan in Chile that I have shown is already, today we have some spot geographically where we are competitive. The plan in Chile is competitive because to get the gas there is very expensive. You have to go by cheap, gasify, etc. So it is very expensive, the gas. So this plan today is already competitive. So we start gaining a small geographical spot where with this technology start to be competitive.
Thank you very much. And with this, I would like to conclude this session. We have learned a lot. Thanks a lot for our panelists. We will have a combined lunch break, combined also with the side events, one on CCS, one on advanced materials, and one on universities. So please use this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you.